All right, so ready to dive into something new.
Always.
Today we are tackling Adobe Creative Cloud.
Ooh, fun.
Specifically, this program that claims it can turn you from a complete beginner into a Creative Cloud pro, like capable of using the whole suite.
Ambitious.
Definitely ambitious. The program boasts 10 courses,
Okay.
over 800 videos, and a whopping 84 hours of content.
That's a lot.
It is. So can someone really go from zero to hero in all these programs, even with 84 hours? What do you think?
It's a lot to take in, that's for sure. But what's interesting here is how they've structured it. Instead of just throwing you into the deep end with each individual program, they've smartly paired fundamentals courses with mastery courses for each application. So there's Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, After Effects, Premiere Pro, Lightroom, you name it.
Okay, so you learn the foundations, then you level up. That makes sense.
Right.
But what does learning the fundamentals actually look like? Let's take Photoshop, for example. What are you actually learning in that?
So imagine opening up Photoshop for the first time. It can be a little overwhelming, right? This program's like, don't worry, we got you. It takes you on this guided tour, starting with like layers, which are like the building blocks of your image. Then you've got color adjustments, so you can finally make those vacation photos pop. Then you dive into shapes, text, and all those cool layer styles, like all those essential Photoshop tools.
Okay, so it's like learning the alphabet before you start writing novels.
Exactly.
Understanding those foundational elements.
Yeah, and then Photoshop Mastery, it's like Photoshop Boot Camp, right? Yeah. It's like, okay, now you know the basics, let's get into advanced selections.
Ooh, advanced selections.
Yeah, so you can cut out like even the trickiest images. Workflow hacks, so you can edit like a speed demon. You can even dabble in 3D effects, like the stuff you see on movie posters and things like that.
Now, that's what I'm talking about. But it's not just about clicking buttons, right? It's about applying those skills. Does this program give you a chance to actually create something?
Absolutely. They've got these hands-on projects that put your knowledge to the test. So remember those postcards you were thinking about making?
Always wanted to make postcards.
You'll actually design those in these courses, along with manipulating images, creating like vintage photo effects. You've probably seen those online.
Yeah.
It's like having your own creative playground.
Okay, sign me up.
Right.
But before I get too carried away, let's talk about the instructors for a sec. We've got Daniel Walter Scott, who's an Adobe certified instructor.
Impressive.
And then we've got Philip Ebener, who has a background in video creation and photography and has worked on documentaries and other projects.
So the real deal.
Yeah. What's the value of having such experienced pros, leading the charge here?
Well, think of it this way. You wouldn't learn to bake from someone who's only read cookbooks, right?
Yeah.
You want someone who's been there, done that, can share all the secret tips and tricks. And that's what's so valuable here. They don't just teach the software. They share their real-world experience, which is invaluable if you actually want to use these skills.
Yeah, it's like having a backstage pass to the creative industry.
Exactly.
So this isn't just for aspiring designers, then?
No, not at all. This program seems geared towards, like, anyone who's ever looked at, a cool website or like an Instagram filter and thought, I wish I could do that. So whether you're like a photographer wanting to up your editing game, a marketer who needs eye-catching visuals, or even just someone who loves like playing with images and stuff, this program has something to offer.
That's what's so great about Adobe Creative Cloud. It's like this giant creative toolbox, and this program seems like the ultimate guide to using it.
It really does.
But let's break it down even further. We've talked about the general structure, but what's actually covered in, say, Photoshop Fundamentals?
So Photoshop Fundamentals, it starts with the basics, like getting to grips with the Photoshop workspace itself, right? Like you're learning your way around a new city.
Okay.
And then it's all about layers. Remember those building blocks we talked about?
Yeah.
It's understanding how to use those to like create and manipulate your images.
So it's not as simple as just slapping a filter on it and calling it a day.
No. This is like you're getting into the nitty-gritty.
Okay.
You'll learn about color adjustments, how to work with shapes and text, and then you get into like the really cool stuff like layer styles, cropping, selections, all those core Photoshop elements that give you like precise control over your images.
And they kind of throw you into the deep end with those hands-on projects, right? Like you mentioned creating postcards. Is that something you'd tackle right away in this?
Designing and like manipulating images from the get-go. It's not just about like memorizing the tools. It's about applying those tools to create something you can actually like hold on to digitally, of course.
Right.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you're getting a taste of what it's like to actually use Photoshop in the real world right from the start.
Right. Exactly, yeah. And as you progress through Photoshop fundamentals, you start tackling increasingly challenging techniques. You'll get into things like filters, smart objects, even warping and distortion tools, which are always fun.
Warping and distortion. Okay, now we're talking.
So you can make your images look like they're straight out of like a sci-fi movie.
Okay, warping and distortion, that sounds right up my alley. And I see they even have a section on retouching. I've always been curious about retouching, especially when you see like those flawless magazine covers.
Oh, it's amazing what you can achieve with retouching. So this section, it covers like all the essentials from like removing blemishes, fixing red eye, smoothing skin, and yes, even whitening teeth.
Okay.
They even get into like enhancing eyes, which can really make a portrait pop.
So you're telling me I could learn to do all that?
You absolutely could.
I might have to ditch my collection of Instagram filters then.
You might just surprise yourself. And, you know, it's not just about making people look perfect. It's about understanding how to use these tools for specific purposes.
Right.
Whether it's for like a professional headshot or creating a specific visual style.
Speaking of visual styles, I noticed they cover some pretty cool effects. Like they even show you how to do that Spotify duotone look and even that like vintage Instagram vibe that everyone loves.
They definitely keep it current. So you'll be creating those trendy visuals in no time.
Nice. But before they let you loose on the world with your newfound Photoshop skills, they make sure you've got the technical stuff down too, right?
Absolutely.
Like knowing the difference between RGB and CMYK, which I'll admit always trips me up.
Don't worry, they've got you covered.
Okay.
You'll learn about color modes, resolution, different brush types, and of course, how to export your work in the right format, whether it's for print or web.
It's like they thought of everything. Photoshop Fundamentals sounds incredibly comprehensive.
It really is.
But Photoshop Mastery hints at even more advanced techniques. What's waiting for us on the other side of that?
Okay, so Photoshop Mastery is where you truly level up your Photoshop game. Remember those selection and masking techniques you were learning in Fundamentals?
Yeah.
Get ready to take those to a whole new level. This is where you'll be able to cut out objects with, like, pixel-perfect precision, even if they're surrounded by like really complex backgrounds.
That's the dream, right? No more spending hours trying to select like stray hairs.
Exactly. Photoshop Mastery is all about efficiency as well. You'll learn how to navigate Photoshop like a pro, keyboard shortcuts, workflow hacks. Imagine being able to process like hundreds of images at once with a single click. That's the power of Photoshop Mastery.
Okay, now you're just showing off.
It's pretty impressive.
I can already see myself impressing my friends with my newfound Photoshop wizardry.
Right. Oh, and there's more. Photoshop Mastery also goes into fixing those common image problems that like plague even the best photographers. Like, have you ever needed to enlarge an image without making it blurry?
Ugh, the worst.
Or wished you could rescue a photo that was like accidentally out of focus? Photoshop Mastery to the rescue.
Okay, so Photoshop Mastery, it's part magic, part technical wizardry.
It really is.
And it seems like it even touches on web design a bit, right?
It does. You'll learn how to properly set up files for like web layouts and export them correctly because obviously you want your images to look crisp and clear online. It highlights how Photoshop's uses extend far beyond just editing photos.
Yeah.
It's a versatile tool for any creative project.
So that was our whirlwind tour of the Photoshop portion of this program.
Yep.
From the fundamentals to like really mastering some advanced techniques. It sounds like it covers it all.
It's impressive.
But we've got a whole suite of Adobe programs to explore.
We do. Up next, Illustrator.
Illustrator, the vector graphics powerhouse. I'm ready.
Get ready to dive into the world of scalable graphics, my friend. Illustrator is a favorite amongst graphic designers, and Illustrator Fundamentals is where you'll discover why.
Okay, I'm ready to become best friends with vector graphics. Let's do it. All right, so we tackled the world of pixels with Photoshop.
It's a whole different world, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah.
What's next in our Creative Cloud adventure?
Get ready to embrace those vectors because we are diving into Illustrator.
Ooh, Illustrator.
Yeah. Imagine like creating designs that you can blow up to billboard size without losing any quality.
Okay.
That's the magic of vector graphics.
Okay, so this has piqued my interest. This
Yeah.
whole scalable without losing quality. But first things first.
Yeah.
Illustrator Fundamentals. Does it start us off with the basics, like Photoshop did?
Absolutely. So you'll get acquainted with the Illustrator workspace, learn the lay of the land before you start creating masterpieces.
Love it.
They break down like all the different tools and panels in a way that just makes sense, even if you've never like opened Illustrator before.
Okay, cool. And then comes the fun part, actually drawing in Illustrator.
Right.
What are some of the like key tools, key techniques covered in this?
Get ready to become best friends with the pen tool.
Oh, the pen tool. I've heard whispers.
It's like the Swiss Army knife of Illustrator. It lets you create those like smooth, precise curves that vector graphics are known for.
Right.
Don't worry, they ease you into it, starting with like basic shapes and lines.
Okay.
And then you graduate to the pen tool.
Okay, good to know they've got our backs.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
What about other creative tools in Illustrator? What else is there?
You'll also master the curvature tool, which I think is like a much more intuitive version of the pen tool.
Okay.
They also have the pencil tool for like more of that freehand drawing experience.
Yeah.
And then there's the shape builder tool, which is a game changer.
Okay.
It lets you create these like really complex shapes by combining and merging simpler ones.
It sounds like a whole new world of like drawing and design possibilities.
Oh yeah. And let's not forget about type.
Right.
It's a huge part of graphic design. They have a whole section dedicated to type and fonts. So
Okay.
you'll learn how to like choose the perfect font for your project, format it to your liking. You can even create outlines and warp text to fit different paths and shapes. So
you could create like those eye-catching logos and typography posters that are everywhere.
exactly. And because color is such a crucial element of design, they dedicate a good chunk of the course to mastering color in Illustrator.
Okay, yeah, tell me more about that. What are some of the key color concepts that they actually cover?
They start with like the fundamentals. Like they
Yeah.
explain the difference between, RGB and CMYK color models,
Right, which can be confusing.
which is important, right?
Right.
Whether you're designing for web or for print. But it goes beyond that. You learn how to select and apply colors effectively, create and utilize gradients, even start thinking about how colors work together to evoke different moods and messages.
It's like color theory meets graphic design.
Exactly. And to make sure that you're well equipped to tackle those real-world design projects, Illustrator Fundamentals also covers some like essential design techniques.
Okay, like what?
You'll learn how to use masks. Masks are like digital stencils, so they let you hide and reveal parts of your artwork.
Okay.
You'll dive into the world of patterns, so you can create those repeating designs or use pre-made ones, which can be super handy
Yeah.
to add texture and visual interest.
You're so versatile. You see them in everything from like textile design to website backgrounds.
Totally.
Yeah.
And to add that extra layer of polish to your designs, you'll even learn how to apply various effects like drop shadows, blurs, glows.
Oh, I love a good drop shadow.
Right. Just elevates everything.
It really does.
Yeah.
It looks like Illustrator Fundamentals even touches upon Adobe Capture,
It does.
which is their mobile app, right?
Yeah, and it's a game changer for incorporating like real world elements into your designs.
Okay.
Imagine snapping a photo of like a cool texture, like a
Yeah.
hand-drawn sketch that you did, and then instantly being able to turn that into like a vector shape or a brush that you can use in Illustrator.
That's so cool. So it's like bridging that gap between like the physical and digital worlds.
Exactly. And it goes to show how much this program emphasizes putting your newfound skills into practice.
Right.
Giving you the tools and the inspiration to create something like truly unique.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Illustrator Fundamentals sounds incredibly comprehensive, especially for like a beginner course.
Yeah, it lays a really solid foundation.
It's like they've thought of everything. So from understanding the fundamentals of UX UI design to like actually creating those final deliverables,
the whole process.
this program seems to really cover it all.
It's impressive, right?
It really is.
Yeah.
Well, there you have it. This Adobe Creative Cloud deep dive has been amazing.
It has.
From photo editing and graphic design to video editing, motion graphics, and UX UI design. It's incredible how accessible these powerful tools have become, and this program seems like a fantastic guide for anyone who wants to tap into their creative side.
It really is. And, the tools are just the beginning.
Right.
It's your creativity that will make those designs shine.
I'm ready to dust off my creative hat and dive into the world of Adobe CC. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive. It's been an absolute blast.
The pleasure was all mine.